κύριος Ulrich Hermann έχει συνδεθεί μαζί μας. Herr Hermann, hören Sie uns?
Ja, guten Tag zusammen.
Dear Mr. Hermann, the speech is for you.
Good. So, yeah, hello everyone. I'm very pleased to present our project at your event today. Surely you have heard about our project in the press. In the following, I have some slides present you the background of our electric car startup Ego, and not only regarding our project in Greece, but basically why we exist, and I would say what exciting times still lie ahead of us. Let me, oh, now I need to switch here. Doesn't move. Now it works. Okay, let me go through the current situation as we see. Let's say the analog economy is at an impasse. In order to utilize analog mass production systems, we are experiencing an unprecedented overproduction of physical products that is visibly leading our world into an ecological disaster. Analog products traditionally do not provide user data because they are not smart and they're not digital and they're not connected. And if producers like us or like car producers don't know the use case and don't get the data from the products, then product features are exceeding product sales, are more important than frequency of use. And as a result of product centricity, production systems and volume-driven business models, more than 95% of our vehicles are in cities, are completely unused. Every space is parked up. Everyone knows this issue. The waste of resources is gigantic. The CO2 emission of the drive concept is only a part of the whole problem. Let me quickly go to the background. As you know, we are all production engineers who founded Ego from Aachen, University of Aachen. So one slide for that. We are now in the advent of the Internet of Things, a vertical organization that based on the division of labor are disappearing right now. In the IoT, in the Internet of Things industrial organizations, as they are now coming, the marginal costs for energy and communication eventually approach zero. So that means that the justification of centralized and large organization based on the division of labor to overcome these kind of costs for communication and connectivity, they are increasingly disappearing. And if communication costs in today's interfaces disappear in IoT platforms and connectivity increases, then microfactories, peer-to-peer production, that will emerge. And that is the opportunity. Value creation no longer takes place in vertically large integrated organizations, but more globally, laterally scalable networks with low upfront investments and their end platforms. Industrial value creation is organized in open source architecture, and value creation at some point, this is no longer the creation of a product in a large organization, but rather the organization of the product over its entire life cycle, including the use phase. That is the value creation in the future. So let me come to Ego. We, Next.e.GO, we have set out to create an offer for individual urban mobility for the next generation user, for the next generation product, and for the next generation production system. The goal is to bring the entire system from production to use into harmony with the ecology. This results in requirements for a new generation of sustainable car companies. First of all, the most important requirement is that the production system must operate with significantly fewer resources. It should be lean, it should be decentralized, and it should operate in micro factories. The second important point is that the product must be durable and able to be renewed and brought back into service with significant renewed resource use. And that the people convert from the analog product into a digital product, it's all about convenience and purpose. The product must be easier to use, it must be more functional application, more meaningful, more emotional than the analog predecessor. And final point is that customers themselves should become not only consumers, but also providers for the unused capacity of their product, in our case, of our vehicle. If customers do not participate in the economy of what the car industry is doing, they're not incentivized to utilize the vast resources of standing traffic. So let me talk about the heart of this next generation car, which is the microfactory. Next.e.GO Mobile SE production in Aachen shows all 5 characteristics of an IoT production design, the Internet of Production, as we say. The ego production system is developed based on agile principles that you may know from the software industry. It merges product cycle, user cycle, and the production cycle into one single platform. And that we call the Internet of Production. It's cloud-based and it's a complete networked. Our production does not trigger high capex investment for a new product line due to very specifics of our microfactory value creation. And therefore, more frequent releases are possible without larger upfront investments per product release. And this allows market acceptance to be tapped before investments are made, right according to the agile principles. Agile development principles have so far only been implemented and applied to this extent in the software industry, as I said. They are not expected to be adopted in the product manufacturing industry very soon due to the limitations by current physical product production systems. This is a superior advantage of the ego production system in building its loyal customer base and also in maximizing the return on R&D spend. Let me go through into the market. The car industry is entering the BEV, the battery electric vehicle, we call BEV space, in the more expensive vehicle upper class segment right now. The production systems of the mass producers today simply do not yield a profit for electric cars below 40,000 euros. For ego, the market in the small vehicle segment is thus open. And this is exactly where the normal customer, as we say, the early majority and the more pragmatic people will now convert from the ICE, from the diesel and benzene and gas powertrain to battery electric vehicle, exactly in that segment. They prefer to make the switch, not with their first upper class vehicle, but first with a second car. And that is our segment. We call it the city BEV. Over ego, ego offers extremely good value for money and positions the competition in higher but significantly more expensive price segments. The ego, sadly, you can drive it now, but it drives like a Golf, a sporty Golf, and costs like a Zoe or like a Smart. And what we also found very remarkable is that 86% of respondents of a European-wide survey that we have conducted would rather switch with a BEV of a very new car brand than with one from the established car industry. Of course, if they like the product. We believe Tesla has paved the way here as well. At least in Germany, before Tesla, it was unthinkable that a new manufacturer without 100 years of automotive history would be accepted by customers as reliable. The car itself, ego, is a purpose-designed vehicle aimed at typical daily mobility needs, short distance. More than 50% of daily commutes are below 50 kilometers. I have an ego. I charge the ego 1 time a week and drive every day. Product portfolio is based on a platform, on a skateboard. Today, we are offering 3 variants and addressing a broad scope of urban and suburban mobility requirements. The ego has a 200-kilometer range, is fully charged in 2 hours, and has highly attractive entry price point at 26K, resulting in a 17 cash price after incentive for customers in Germany. They're all incentives around, and that is also true for Greece. The car itself was designed by a world-leading Italian car designer, Paolo Spada. You see it from the back. It really looks like a Ferrari. It drives, by the way, like this. And it really offers a driving behavior which is exciting people. We have a conversion rate from test drive to purchase of ahead of 50%. Average is 23 in the car industry. And very important for our customers, you can immediately see this is a battery electric vehicle and it's not a conversion design from a Mini that looks like a Mini with benzene or diesel, looks the same like electric. Let me go into the inside of the car. ego is the most sustainable car in the segment. This comes from this production concept, but also from the car design. ego has an indestructible core. This is an aluminum space frame that is not a self-carrying steel body. And the space frame is coming from racing technology. It offers a core that you never can destroy. It lasts 50 years and more. And the exterior is a corrosion-free colored part from polymeric. So why not doing only the bumpers in plastic? You can do the whole car today. The core invention in Aachen was how to do a space frame that is usually from racing technology or from luxury car segment, how to do it in serious production. Space frame production or manufacturing today is a process that takes 50 minutes or more. We have reduced the time down to 10 minutes, and that finally allowed us to change the full design of the car. And why is this so important? Because if you do this, you don't have a steel body of a car anymore, but a space frame. You could change the layout for the factory. And why is it so important to change the layout for the factory from a large quantity factory to a micro factory? Because this is the entry ticket also to go to Greece. So what happens with our factory? We have a micro factory. Maximum capacity of our factory is 30,000 vehicles per year in 3 shifts. The plant size is 35,000 square meters. The total invest for a factory is 17 million, nothing more. And it takes 2 years from planning to production start. And then the factory is up and running. The classical OEM plant structure is far ahead of 100,000 vehicles because they have to count on economies of scale. They have a press shop and they have a paint shop. All that is missing. The press shop is the most expensive thing of a car in a company, of a car factory. And therefore the invest goes up to 2 billion because you need the size and you need the number of the large cars. And that is so difficult to position in areas that are not industrialized. And therefore car industry stays where it is and has a high risk for new startups if you start with a large factory. Only Tesla was able to do so. But now micro factory design allows another start for new entries. Here you see the picture of our factory in Aachen. As I said, the factory is real and it's in production. We already have produced more than 700 cars that are out, customers driving around. Every process, every tool, every piece of equipment, every action has a digital twin in our factory on a platform that, as I said, we Aachener production engineers call the Internet of Production. This digital representation of our microfactory forms the basis for building an exact copy of the factory at another location in a short time. The investment per factory is therefore significantly smaller, to be precise, 1/10 compared to the classical OEM car factories. Building a factory with a throughput of 250,000 vehicles requires a distinct industrial ecosystem in the surrounding area. Less industrialized regions that do not look back on 200 years of industrial tradition, from railroad construction and mechanical engineering to, I don't know, vehicle manufacturing, fall through the cracks for traditional mass production systems in the auto industry. With the possibilities of the digital microfactory as we own it, it is now possible for the first time to establish industrial value creation of generation 4.0 in areas that from a production and economic point of view were not even considered in the past due to their infrastructure. In the course of growth with the ego factory, we are thus moving the locations and countries that are either appear significant in the overall social context or are located close to customers. We call it the liberalization of industrial production. In this future lies the opportunity for Greece to become part of the digital industry 4.0 as we see it. Based on these possibilities of modern production systems, I'm quite sure that Greece, with its consistent political focus on, as I learned, ecology and digitization, will clearly win and gain a foothold in the next generation of industrial production with all these positive effects of the prosperity and structure in the society. Let me finish with a quick summary. We have started our project 2 months ago with great support from Enterprise Greece and a great, strong political support for our initiative from the Greek government. Currently, we are in the middle of a feasibility study with the help of our friends from Enterprise Greece. Next week, actually, we will visit 5 sites in Greece from the final selection from a total offer of over 40 sites that approached us. So overall, we plan to build a car in Greece after around 2 years from today. And of course, this will be even better facilitated if we find strategic local partners in Greece. This is also a process which is ongoing to support in the area of financing, distribution, production, etc. Sites, we now have enough offers, so that is well on track. So we invite smart people from Greece to collaborate on the great opportunity of a Greek-German car project. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. And of course, I will be at your disposal for any questions.
Dear Dr. Hermann, thank you very much for your presentation. It was a very analytical one and very interesting. I have, though, a few questions, and if someone from the speakers have also, they can, for the participants, they can also write. The point is, how exactly is the investment amount that is going to be invested in Greece?
So a factory totally, to get it up and running, it costs 100 million euro. Mm-hmm. And compared to an OEM factory, this is almost nothing. You have €1 billion to invest in a traditional factory. As you know, Ford, for example, they now build their factory in Cologne for €1 billion. Our microfactory, 100 million per factory. And then, of course, you have some startup costs to get the production up and running. You have to purchase material, etc. But the investment is 100. And that is also our plan. If you are growing, and that's our plan to grow to 120,000 produced cars per year.
The first stage, it is going to be approximately how much?
So per factory, a maximum of 30,000 in 3 shifts. If you have 20,000, that is, let's say, a good number for a factory, because we are break even already with 15,000 cars per factory in profits. So that's the thing. If you break even with 15,000 cars, you build a factory, make it break even, build the next factory, make it break even. And so you are developing your profit curve. That's different. If you build a factory that has to have a capacity of 150,000 upfront, you're break even with 100,000. So you are in huge losses until you're in the numbers. And that is the difference. That is what we also call agile development. Less upfront investment, very close to the market, understanding where the market is, and then building the capacity with following the market. An absolutely de-risked model in order to enter in the car industry.
Very interesting. What does it mean in workplaces for Greece?
So we are talking about between close to 1,000 employees in the factory and close by suppliers, but it could be up, if you involve everything, up to the last hotel, yeah, to 7,000. So a value chain
7,000.
Yeah,
up to 7,000.
Up to 7,000 involved people in such a place that produces up to 30,000 cars.
One moment, someone has a question. We have a question from the participant, and he asks Ioannis Marigis. Yes, he asks, is what you have also related to the HNBEB Move GmbH? How's the collaboration with the ZF related to that?
Yeah, so the HNBEB Mover is a transportation vehicle for delivery goods and also people. We are now restarting the production for the Ego Mover as well in Aachen, but there are no plans in Greece for now because of the number of produced vehicles are much smaller. And they're also not so, they're right now in a very early phase. They're just got the homologation, the street allowance, while Ego already is in the street and is sold, completely homologated and has European appliance. So there's a pretty more early phase for the Ego Mover. But Ego Mover is also well on track, and the market for the Ego Mover, especially the last mile for the delivery of packages, is exploding, and there are no real concepts in place to cover for the demand. So that is a very interesting market in front of us here as well.
Perfectly, thank you for your answer. We have another question. What from Dr. Antonio, what is the forecast for the Greek market for Ego? In which markets would the remainder be exported to?
The forecast in Ego is that we start in, that's according to our business plan, in 24 we have a production of 2,000 cars. The Greek market itself is assumed to are in that size, around 1,600, 700 cars. That's the size of the Greek market. So we are ramping up the factory in our plan up to 20,000 produced cars. So we have Greece as our hub for further countries in the Eastern Europe, but also go to, because we have harbors around, overseas, and also can think of Middle East, etc. in that area. From Aachen, from the German factory, we will cover markets like Germany, Belgium, Spain, Italy. But all that is, let's say, also a part of our feasibility study. We have a precise list of countries that we will serve from the Greece location.
Perfectly, perfectly. Another two questions we have here. One from Mr. Akzidis. For the Ego Mover, there are plans to have autonomous functionality. Can you elaborate a bit more on the topic and if anything is going to be developed in Greece? I think it is already covered.
Yeah. So again, for the mover, there are no plans for R&D and activity in Greece. However, once we have a factory in a location in Greece, and as we know, the Greek people, they are well known for engineering and mathematics, but they are not in Greece. They are somewhere in the world. I studied at MIT in Cambridge in the US a year, and I was surrounded by Greek people, still in friends with them, but they are not in Greece. They're in London and US and whatever. But we assume that they may be attracted to come back on these kind of projects. And so we have a lot of talented software engineers here that we can, of course, think of building R&D centers in this kind of technology. And yes, AI, artificial intelligence, is an important topic, especially in the cargo era. In the city BEV, in the city car segment, not so much, because this is more a long distance question. If you sit in your car and you're bored, but if you're in a city driving around, you want to enter the car, exit the car, and the requirements in the city are very high for self-driven autonomous driving. But in the cargo era, it's very likely, and we already are working on this very heavily, of course. But technology is developing here heavily, and we are very open also with corporations and yeah, everything is at the start right now.
Perfectly, perfectly. And let's go to the last question, because I see there are many questions. And the last question from Mr. Cengiz: do you plan at first point the production of all your EV models in Greece? do you have under your scope to include production of charging stations also?
Yeah, so we don't have yet a plan to go to China. Of course, we are elaborating this. We have a plan for Europe, which is the factory in Aachen in Germany and in Greece. We also have a plan with Thailand to do the right-hand drive. Thailand is an let's say also an industrialized area that serves more or less the Japanese market, but underestimated by the German car industry. And for us to build a value chain in Thailand is very important. And also we now are about to sign a letter of intent for Mexico to serve the US, but we don't have yet a plan for China. But definitely, if you would like to go to China, we have to think about also to build a factory there. But India especially is a low-cost market, very cheap stuff, high volumes, and China as well. So we have to consider what exactly we do here. But there's high interest of Chinese investors, of course, but be a little careful.
Perfect. Dr. Hermann, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for the honor to be today with us. Thank you for your very interesting presentation. As I told before, if you want and can, please send us your presentation to the network.
Sure, I will do so. And maybe a last, of course, remark from my side. If you go to the website, there's possibility now to pre-register for a car. And I hope to get many Greek names to sell cars to you guys. And also test drives are maybe open soon if the COVID crisis, let's say, goes back. And would be happy if you at least test an ego. There are a lot of possibilities to do so also in Munich. And was, again, very happy to have a presentation here. Thank you very much.